Education is not an affair of telling and being told, but an active and constructive process. We do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on experience. Give the pupil something to do, not something to learn, and the doing is of such a nature as to demand thinking. Learning naturally results. You cannot teach today the same way you did yesterday to prepare students for tomorrow. Education is not preparation for life, education is life itself. The real process of education should be the process of learning to think through the application of real problems. If we teach today's students as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. All genuine education comes about through experience. All learning begins when our comfortable ideas turn out to be inadequate. I believe that education is the fundamental method of social progress and reform. The school must be a genuine form of active community life, instead of a place set apart in which to learn lessons. We only think when we are confronted with problems. The best preparation for the future is a well-spent today. The deepest urge in human nature is the desire to feel important. Arriving at one goal is the starting point to another. The phrase, "think for oneself," is a pleonasm. Unless one does it for oneself, it isn't thinking. Schools should take an active part in directing social change, and share in the construction of a new social order. How can the child learn to be a free and responsible citizen when the teacher is bound? Democracy has to be born anew every generation, and education is its midwife. Failure is instructive. The person who really thinks learns quite as much from his failures as from his successes. The self is not something ready-made, but something in continuous formation through choice of action. Art is not the possession of the few who are recognized writers, painters, musicians, it is the authentic expression of any and all individuality. There's all the difference in the world between having something to say and having to say something. To find out what one is fitted to do, and to secure an opportunity to do it, is the key to happiness. Human nature exists and operates in an environment. And it is not in that environment as coins are in a box, but as a plant is in the sunlight and soil. We're all instructors to realize that the quality of mental process, not the production of correct answers, is the measure of educative growth. Something hardly less than a revolution in teaching would be worked. Schools have ignored the value of experience and chosen to teach by pouring in. Every great advance in science has issued from a new audacity of imagination. The good man is the man who, no matter how morally unworthy he has been, is moving to become better. The conception of education as a social process and function has no definite meaning until we define the kind of society we have in mind. What's in a question, you ask? Everything. It is evoking stimulating response or stultifying inquiry. It is, in essence, the very core of teaching. Perhaps the greatest of all pedagogical fallacies is the notion that a person learns only the particular thing he is studying at the time. The result of the educative process is capacity for further education. Independent, self-reliant people would be a counterproductive anachronism in the collective society of the future where people will be defined by their associations. Creative thinking will improve as we relate the new fact to the old and all facts to each other. Hunger not to have, but to be. To learn from experience is to make a backward and forward connection between what we do to things and what we enjoy or suffer from things in consequence. We can have facts without thinking, but we cannot have thinking without facts. The need for growth, for development, for change, is fundamental to life. Anyone who has begun to think places some portion of the world in jeopardy. Too rarely is the individual teacher so free from the dictation of authoritative supervisor, textbook on methods, prescribed course of study, etc., that he can let his mind come to close quarters with the pupil's mind and the subject matter. To me, faith means not worrying. Cease conceiving of education as mere preparation for later life, and make it the full meaning of the present life. Time and memory are true artists, they remold reality nearer to the heart's desire. I believe that in this way the teacher always is the prophet of the true God and the usherer in of the true kingdom of God.